Hello everyone, I've got a 2013 BMW 528i and my air conditioner stopped working. So the symptoms I was having is turn the AC on, turn the blower on, and the AC it would just blow hot air. I never got an engine warning light about it, but no cold air. So first thing I did is I came out and looked at the air conditioning compressor, which is right here. At the end of that rod end of stick. And so with the engine on and if you hit the AC button, you should notice that the compressor turns on. If the compressor is not on, it won't be rotating. There'll be a noticeable difference if it's rotating or not rotating. So you can turn your fan on without the AC and you can see it moving on. The pulley will rotate, but right at the tip, the compressor, you'll see it engage or not engage because of the clutch. Alright, so mine was not engaging, and first thing I did was check fuses. So there's two places to check fuses. One is in the glove box and the other is back here. So back here in the trunk, there's a map of fuses, labeling. So you look up, it's got AC, and it lists the fuse locations. For AC, here's the map, and it corresponds to this fuse box and also the one in the glove box. I've got a little tool that I can just put up my fuses, put the tool up to, and so long as you put it on each end where there's an open area, the tool checks to see if there's continuity with the fuse, make sure it's still good. So that way you don't have to pull the tool. It's pretty handy. So I looked at all the fuses and they're good. Alright, so here's the tool, and the tester's got prongs on it. And so if you line it up like this, the green light will come on, indicating the fuse is okay. So all my fuses are okay. Now I'm gonna check some other things. Alright, so I got a scanner tool and I'm checking to see if there's anything that my scanner can tell me. Go into BMW OEM Enhanced. I don't have anything specific that I see for air conditioning. This, so I got a code here, radiator blind above upper limit. No, that's not related. So I don't have any, my scanner's not picking up anything. Alright, so I checked pressures, and here's your low side, and this is the high side. You have to lift this flap up to find it. High side. So I checked pressures, and I'm getting about, well, it's exact same pressure. I think it was about 120 on the low side and high side. Now that's with the engine on. The compressor's not gauging, so it's not showing a differential. So I think still kind of pointing to the compressor not engaging, but the pressure should not be, with the compressor running, you should see a difference. The high side should be higher and the low side should be 25, 30, something like that. And by the way, here's up here on the hood is the location for the type of refrigerant and the charge, 1.87 pounds. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the compressor and I'm going to remove this electrical connection right here, and I'm going to test and see if I'm getting a signal for the compressor to kick on. Now, so that's the compressor. The other thing, there's a switch on the high pressure line, and it's back behind this heat shield, but it's right here. So the pressure switch may be an issue. If so, that's a pretty easy change out. If I gotta change my compressor, it's a bigger job, but still not too bad. Certainly more expensive. Alright, so I got the engine on, I got the AC on, and I'm looking for a signal input. turn the compressor on. Yep, I got a signal, so the compressor should be engaging. Here's an example I was showing. The belt's still going, but the compressor right at the tip isn't moving. So maybe my compressor that's bad. I got a signal to it. I'm gonna undo the belt and I'm gonna see if I can turn the compressor by hand or see if it's frozen. All right, so I removed the belt and you just put it on the belt tensioner like this. I had to use a tool to do that, 16 millimeter. Put it on the nut, belt tensioner nut. And so that's what you do to remove it. Take the tension off the belt. So I moved it. Now I'm trying to move. Let me see if I can get the light down there. I'm trying to move the AC compressor by hand, the wheel, but it's not moving. And it should be a little tight but free to turn. So looks like it's my compressor. That's bad. I am gonna check for continuity over there at the pressure switch. But I think what I'll do is I'll take it to a shop and I'll have them remove the Freon. Then I'll get a new compressor, replace the compressor, take it back to the shop and have them recharge. All right, so I got the coolant removed and it was a little low. It wasn't the let's see, 1.87 pounds charge. The charge was a little low, but the pressure was still high. I talked with the guys; they're pretty cool. They were giving me some advice. They said with that kind of pressure, the switch should still engage. Should be enough to send a signal to the air conditioner pressure to engage. And in fact, when I tested the circuit here with the tester, I did get a signal for it to engage. So I removed this cover just from the air filter, and there's a backside. So now I got better access to the compressor. And let's see, I'm gonna try turning it some more. Make sure, yeah, it's locked up. So now I got to figure out how to remove that. I think there's two bolts. There's one right here. So it's a Torx bit. I'll have to, there's got to be more than one. Find the other one. Then I'll have to remove the bolts for the high pressure and low pressure. And remove these two lines. Okay, so I've got a new compressor on order, air compressor on order, and those things, they aren't cheap. Alright, so I found the second bolt. There's one that's hidden right here, so I had to move the idler, the tensioner back to get access to it. And then the second one is just below it down here. Let's see if it's showing up. Okay, so there it is. These are long bolts. Okay, so I removed the two bolts for the air conditioning compressor. Those were E11 size sockets, and for the high pressure and low pressure line, this is a T30. So I'm moving, and there's only one bolt for each one. So I've got that off. That's what it looks like. And I should just build up. It's got a retaining pin in there. There we go. A little bit of vacuum release. I had pulled the Freon out. If you don't do that, that would be a mess, and it's also illegal. Okay, stop. All right, so I had to get the hammer and I had to hit these sections where the bolts were. I had to bang those several times to get it to come out. A little bit of work, but not too bad. And eventually it just became loose. So now I should be able to pull it out. There we go. I got it out now. Alright, so there it is. So 2 bolts. These bushings are where we're keeping it in back here. 2 bolts, one here, electrical connector, and then the higher and low pressure. And this is it's not a retainer, but it's a directional guide that I had to pull out. So there's my pulley, spins freely. The clutch is locked up. Yeah, the sucker's not turning. What I may do is provide a little power to it right there and see if I can get it to turn. Alright, so I got it out. I was looking to see where the bushings go. The bushings, they don't actually go on the back side of this. They just go flush against the upper and lower. So here's the upper one, here's the lower one. And the bolt just extends through this piece, and the thread is actually on the compressor bushing. So the threads are right here. So I got a hammer and I tap these out and put it back in place just to check the fit when I put the new one in. It goes a little bit easier. So I think when the new one comes in, I'm gonna knock these back a little bit, these bushings back a little bit, and then they'll pull in as I put the torque on there. Okay. All right, so folks, I got the compressor out. The whole job to get the compressor out took about 20 minutes. It's me kind of fumbling with there. The hardest part was really knocking the compressor, just giving it a little tap to break it loose. Now that I see what to do, I may get it, if I had to do it next time, I may get a screwdriver. But I started out with a small hammer first time, and that was a mistake. I had to bump it up and get a little bit more bigger tap on there, knock it loose. So far, I've had to diagnose the problem. I had to take it to a shop, get the Freon pulled out, then I had to remove the compressor. I got a compressor on order. It's not here. It'd come in tomorrow, and so I'll install the compressor, and I'll have to take it back to the shop and get them to put the Freon back in, test it out. Okay. Alright, so I got the new part in, and just looking at it, make sure everything looks the same. One thing I noticed is that I can turn this wheel easy, and here it's completely locked up on the older one, so feel comfortable. That's the problem. Everything looks like it matches up between the two, so I'll have to remove this cap and this cap, install it, and it came with some new O-rings that go on the high pressure and low pressure lines that fit into here and here. So I'll get a hammer and I'll tap these bushings back just a little bit, both of them, so it goes in easy. Put it in place and bolt it up. Alright, so I got the 2 bolts on here and here, and it's kind of, I have to pull this tensioner back with one hand while I tighten that one. It's doable, but it's a little tough. So I'll torque those bolts down. I didn't see a torque rating, couldn't find that, so I calculated it just upon measured the size, the diameter of the bolt. It looks anywhere from 30 to about 42, depending on if you use lubricant or not. I'm going to go with 34 foot-pounds of torque and just see how that feels. these bolts I left on, and I took the O-rings off. O-rings go right here. They'll slide up over this yellow piece and fit in that groove, and on the smaller one they'll slide over the white piece and fit in that groove. So I'll clean that real good, add some lubricant to the old O-rings. And these bolts, well, that's just the caps, but when I put the other bolts on to secure it, I'll torque those to 15 foot-pounds. Yeah, there we go. So that felt pretty good. That was 33 foot-pounds of torque. So I got those two bolts on. I did bump up the torque a little bit. I think it went to 36, 37 foot-pounds. It still felt good. Alright, so I got the one line on. Now I'm going to get the second line on. I'll just show you how to do that. So I'm loosening this bolt. It comes with the new compressor. Pull off that piece, and when I did the first line, it came off. It had a little bit of, it was sealed, and so there was a little bit of a noise, kind of a suction. So now I'll put the new O-ring on. And it just slides over the white piece. I don't know if you can get that. Alright, so it slides over the white piece. Clean it. And it's got to fit in this groove holder right there. Okay, that's good. Now I get the nut, or actually bolt. Put the bolt in place. And start tightening it down. Snug, and then I'm gonna torque it down. Alright, snug. I'll torque it down. Then I gotta connect the electrical connector, which is right here. It just drops in place. Alright, so that's in place. I tried pulling it out. It's good. Put the belt back on. The other thing I had to, there's a holder for these tubes. It came off. So I got to figure out where it goes. It looks like it has a hole for a bolt, and there is a hole here, but my other one did not have a bolt there. So I'll figure it out how it goes. Apparently it was just resting on there. It's holding these two brackets up. Put that on, the belt on, put the air filter housing back on. Then after I do that, I'll have to take it back to the shop and get Freon added to the line. Alright, so I did end up, I put this bracket back on, and there's a bolt right here that wasn't there previously, but looks like a good place for it, so I secured that bracket with a new bolt into the compressor. So that looks good. Got the belt back on. Now it's ready for the intake. And I forgot to mention, I did take the cross member, this crossbar off, so I'll put that crossbar back on. Alright, so I got the engine back together, I got the belt back on, everything assembled back. It looks good. The AC compressor is not engaging since I don't have any Freon in the system, so I'll take it back to the shop to pull the Freon out of the system and put Freon in. That cost me about $100. It may cost me a little bit more because they probably have to add a little bit, but otherwise it looks like it was pretty good. I'll give an update after I get Freon back in the system. Alright, so I got the Freon system charged, took it to the shop, they charged it. They did a vacuum test on it. The vacuum test took about 30 minutes. Pulled the vacuum and just kept the vacuum on to see if there's any leak, and the vacuum test did not indicate any kind of leak, so the system looked good. They charged it with Freon. They did not add any oil, so I talked to them about it. The compressor that I bought had 4 ounces. The system holds 8 ounces, and they typically do add oil if the compressor doesn't come with oil, but they felt it didn't need it, so I bought these pit stop, the oil system testers. And basically what you do is you put it on the low side and press down, and you look for oil with this. And so I got a little bit of oil, press down 3 or 4 times, let the engine run. Shows up a little bit of oil, so looks like it's good, and my system doesn't need to add any oil. The system is cooling like a champ right now.